Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fran Lung Show. Today, I'm going to talk CrossFit season, World Fitness Project season, outside events, and really just kind of what it means from a logistical standpoint for athletes, where they're going to compete, how they're going to recover, all in what turns out to be a really condensed timeline. Over the last week or so, we've really seen the CrossFit Games season solidify, or I should say CrossFit season solidify. You have the World Fitness Project, they announced their date, so their first event is May 9th. Their second event starts August 29th. And their final is December 18th. So you have that in place. You have the CrossFit Games season. So the Open starts last weekend in February. But from a qualifying perspective, things kick off with the Mayhem Classic on April 5th. You then have Wadland Fest on April 25th. A week later, May 5th, or May 2nd, sorry, you have the in-affiliate qualifying events. French Throwdown is May 9th. You have 2 weeks later the Fittest Experience Invitational. That's going to be May 16th. Then the last weekend of May, you got 4 events. You got the Renegade Rebel Games, the Syndicate Crown, Torium Pro, Far East Throwdown. And our final in-person qualifying event that was recently released as the NorCal Classic, that is now June 8th to 10th. So we have those 9 events in a little over 2 months, along with the affiliate qualifying event, and we still have Copa Sur, which hasn't announced its dates. Then CrossFit Games, this morning they announced that they'll be running August 1st to 3rd. So kind of brings us to the CrossFit Games season. Then outside of that, obviously we got Wadapalooza this year, end of January. Rogue Invitational is going to be over Halloween again, October 31st to 2nd. Then still you got Crest Crucible, which brings in games level athletes in October. The Down Under Championship was in October last year. You got Dubai, that happens first weekend of December. Then the Fit Fest and then Wadapalooza SoCal, those exhibition events, they happen in December and September as well, respectively. So there's going to be a lot of competitions this year to bring out the top 20. So one of the things that will be interesting to see is just in that April-May timeline, seeing how many athletes compete in multiple events. So a lot of athletes over the past few years have fallen into the routine of competing 3 times a year in person. So you've had them compete at semifinals in May and June. You had them compete at the games in August. And then if they are fortunate enough to get an invite, they would do Rogue. Obviously, there's a lot of others that picked 1 or 2 more, whether it was Dubai or Wadapalooza. But ultimately, for the vast majority of CrossFit Games athletes at that elite level, they're competing in person 3, maybe 4 times a year. And now for athletes that are going to be undertaking the CrossFit Games season, they're going to be looking to compete potentially 3 times in a month. While some of the in-person qualifying events have some rules about who can compete at them, there's still a lot of options for athletes to pick and choose where they go. And so I think it'll be interesting to see who chooses to compete where and when. So looking at it from a European perspective, if you're a European athlete and you're going to do Wadland Fest, a week later you have the in-affiliate semifinals. So if you are fortunate enough to get one of the spots out of Wadland, that's good. You can kind of take off the in-person qualifying events. But if you don't, realistically, you're going to be competing the next week in the in-affiliate semifinals as well. Otherwise, either your game season's done or you're even competing a 3rd week in a row at the French Throwdown, since Wadland in-affiliate semifinals and the French Throwdown are all back-to-back weeks. So if you are in Europe and looking to qualify out of Europe, there is this shot where you are competing 3 weeks in a row, which again, when we talk about athletes kind of selling their souls for 3 competitions a year to advance, now we're talking about potentially having 3 weeks in a row. And then once you add into the mix the potential that some of these top athletes are doing the World Fitness Project, which is, again, right smack dab in the middle of the in-person qualifying events. It's actually the same weekend as the French Throwdown. So if you are World Fitness Project, the French Throwdown is out of the question, which, again, hurts those European athletes. But it really kind of messes things up from a timing standpoint, since you're going to be competing full out to go to the CrossFit Games, but then you're also going to be wanting to have a good showing at the World Fitness Project so you can accumulate those points towards the final. So to put things into perspective, kind of broke down a few examples from athletes who have tentatively announced what their season is going to look like. So if we do look at people who are just doing the World Fitness Project and let's say Rogue Invitational and Wadapalooza, since those are those big ticket events, those athletes obviously compete 5 times in 2025. You got Wadapalooza, which is January 23rd. Then they have a 103-day break to World Fitness Project Event 1, another 110 days to World Fitness Project Event 2, 2 months, 61 days to the Rogue Invitational, and then 46 days to the World Fitness Project Finals. So a good break at the start of the year with a couple, 3 month, a little over 3 month windows of time to recover and train and build. But then you see some compression at the end of the season where they have the World Fitness Project. Then at the end of October, they have Rogue, and then shortly after that, they have the World Fitness Project Finals. Now, a wrinkle for these World Fitness Project athletes, since a lot of them are kind of top 20 in the world, the Mayhem Classic just announced that they will be doing invite based off of who they deem are the top 20 athletes in the world based off of past competition history. So you can see a lot of carryover between Rogue athletes and World Fitness Project athletes getting an invite to the Mayhem Classic, regardless if they have any intentions of doing the Open or not. So for these World Fitness Project athletes that are going to add in Mayhem Classic to their competition schedule, they got Wadapalooza. 69 days later, start of April, they got the Mayhem Classic. And then a month later, 33 days, they have the World Fitness Project Event 1. So for them to do 6 events, their shortest break over the course of this year would be 33 days, with their longest being 110 between the two World Fitness Project Event 1 and Event 2. Obviously, if Wadapalooza has its January date again next year in 2026, the time frame between the World Fitness Project Finals and Wadapalooza is going to be probably a little less than a month. So it's interesting to see how many athletes choose to do the finals and then Wadapalooza next year. But again, like up in the air. But again, we see they can have 6 events with a minimum break of 33 days, which seems reasonable in comparison to what we see other athletes doing. Breaking down a few examples of what the game season could look like for athletes, kind of taking the World Fitness Project out of it. Say we got, a North America West athlete, like an Abigail Dommett, for example. She could be doing the in-affiliate semifinals. That starts on May 2nd, ends on May 4th. She would have a 12-day recovery time till the fittest experience, which is May 5th or May 16th to May 18th. And then, unfortunately, if she doesn't make it out of the fittest experience, she would have potentially another follow-up chance at the NorCal Classic, even though that is a qualifier open for anybody. But if she does go to the NorCal Classic, that runs June 6th or June 8th to 10th. So she would have a 3-week break between the fittest experience and the NorCal Classics. In that North America West example, somebody could be doing 3 competitions in a period of 39 days. Obviously Europe, we kind of touched on this at the start, but you have Wildland Fest, that's April 25th to 27th. The following weekend, so basically a 5-day break, there is the in-affiliate semifinals, which run the 2nd to 4th of May, and then a 5-day break to the French Throwdown. So never mind that you're doing 3 competitions in a 3-week time span. You also are going to need to travel from Spain, potentially to your home gym, and then to France for the French Throwdown, which again, now we're adding travel to this, which just kind of makes the season a little bit more complex if athletes want to do more events, but it may just end up being a one and done type of approach. In the last week of May, we got the Syndicate Crown, which is going to be focused on North America East athletes. You got the Torium Pro. They will be open to anybody, but most likely it's going to be Oceania, just because of the location. And again, if you are competing for a spot in the men's division, do you really want to be flying down to Australia to compete against Jay Crouch, Ricky Garrard, Bailey Martin, Peter Ellis? Probably not. It's probably not going to be the in affiliates or the semifinal you're going to go to, but in any case, you got the Renegade Games, which is just going to be Africa and UAE athletes. And then there's the Far East Throwdown, which will be open to everybody and is located in Korea. For those athletes, The inaffiliate semifinal is 26 days or ends 26 days before that round of semifinals for those regions, which gives them 26 days, which is a bit more reasonable period of a rest time than if you are doing one of the European sanctionals, or if you are even doing the fittest experience, which is kind of that 2 weeks later. So again, it's compressed, but there is a little bit more time for recovery for those athletes. Now, looking at a few athletes that made intentions to do both the CrossFit Games season and the World Fitness Project season, just to see what kind of their hypothetical season could look like. First one, Roman Krenikov. He is not doing Wadapalooza because of his hip injury. So what would be my guess is that he will make it to the Mayhem Classic as an invited athlete. So that is April 5th. He has announced that he will be doing Wadland Fest, which is that last week of April. So 19 days after Mayhem Classic, Krenikov would be doing the Wadland Fest. Then 12 days after Wadland Fest, he's going to fly from Spain back to Indianapolis, where Krenikov will complete in the World Fitness Project Event 1. He would have then an 82-day break, assuming he qualifies out of Mayhem Classic or Wadland for the CrossFit Games. But Krenikov, 82 days later, CrossFit Games. A little bit longer break. You got 26 days between the CrossFit Games and the World Fitness Project Event 2. 61 days from the event 2 to Rogue Invitational. Then 46 days from Rogue to the World Fitness Project Finals. So for Krenikov, if he was to follow that type of structure, which again, it's based off his intention so far, it's reasonably likely that he does follow through. That's going to be 7 events in 256 days. Another example, Emily Rolfe. So she will be in North America West, but looking at her schedule, she is competing as an individual at Wadapalooza. Then say 96 days later, she would be doing the inaffiliate semifinal on May 2nd, which it starts. She's a World Fitness Project athlete, so 5 days after the inaffiliate semifinals, she would be competing in Indianapolis for the World Fitness Project Event 1. Emily Rolfe is also doing the NorCal Classic qualifier, so assuming there's intentions to compete in there, assuming she didn't get a game spot out of the inaffiliate semifinal. So 28 days after the World Fitness Project Event 1, she would be doing NorCal Classic. 52 days after NorCal is the CrossFit Games, and then we go 26 days to World Fitness Project Event 2, 61 to Rogue Invitational, and then 46 days to the World Fitness Project Final. So if Emily Rolfe were to follow that structure, she would have 8 competitions over the course of 2025. Now, she is one of the athletes that competes more than the majority. And so Rolfe had last year in 2024, she competed at Wadapalooza, West Coast Classic, CrossFit Games, the Rogue Invitational, plus she was an athlete at Wadapalooza SoCal and the Fit Fest UK. So for Rolfe, she had 4 individual competitions, plus competed twice in 2 exhibitions. So even for her to go from 6 competitions, she's up to 8 in 2025. So it will be pretty exciting to see how this plays out from a competition standpoint. How many athletes are competing in 5, 6, potentially 7 to 8 events over the course of the year. Should bring a lot of excitement to it because you are able to see your favorite athletes compete regularly as opposed to kind of 2-3 times a year, which is what we have seen over the last few seasons. To see how athletes' intentions change after the first few in-person qualifying events and the inaffiliate semifinals. Once we start to see athletes get their games tickets, I bet you there's going to be some people that pull out of the later semifinals just for a little bit more rest, but we'll need to watch and see that. But overall, more athletes competing more often in 2025, which I think will be a good thing for the sport. With that, if you've made it this far, appreciate if you hit subscribe if you haven't already. And that's all I got for today. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit down and watch. Hope you have a few minutes to get some fitness in today. And with that, take care, and I hope you'll join me again soon.